Long before the first silver coins were struck in Denmark, people still needed ways to trade. They had farms, tools, and crafts, but no money as we know it today. Instead, they relied on a system called barter. This was a simple exchange of goods for other goods. A farmer might trade a sack of barley for a well-made clay pot. A skilled carpenter could exchange a new wooden boat for a number of high-quality animal hides. This system worked well for local communities where everyone knew each other and could agree on the value of different items. It was a direct and personal way of doing business, built on trust and mutual need. As trade routes expanded, simple barter became more complicated. What if a trader from another village did not want your barley? This is where people started using objects that everyone agreed had value. These items served as a kind of early money. In ancient Denmark, things like amber, high-quality flint for tools, and even certain types of seashells were used as a medium of exchange. These goods were desirable, durable, and easy to carry. They allowed for more complex transactions over longer distances. This was a crucial step towards a more sophisticated economy, moving beyond the direct swapping of everyday necessities. Another important form of early wealth was metal. Bronze and gold were highly prized. People created beautiful objects from these metals that were not just for use, but also for showing off status and wealth. Large, ornate bronze axes, for example, were often too delicate for actual battle or wood cutting. They were symbols of power and were traded or given as important gifts. Similarly, people wore gold rings, arm rings, and neck rings. These items acted like a savings account you could wear. If you needed to buy something valuable, you could offer one of your rings as payment. These rings were a particularly useful form of wealth. They were easy to carry, and their value was understood across different tribes and regions. Archaeologists have found hoards of these gold rings buried in the ground, likely for safekeeping. These were the treasures of their time, a way to store wealth before banks and coins existed. This system of using valuable objects, especially metal rings, set the stage for what was to come. It taught people to think about wealth in terms of a portable, universally accepted material, which would eventually be silver. The idea of money was slowly taking shape in the minds of the people of early Denmark. The people of Denmark were not isolated. They were part of vast trade networks that stretched across Europe and beyond. During the time of the Roman Empire, from around the 1st to the 5th centuries AD, a new and precious metal began to flow north: silver. The Romans minted huge quantities of silver coins known as denarii. Through trade, diplomacy, and payments to Germanic mercenaries, these coins traveled far beyond the empire's borders. They reached Scandinavia, bringing with them a new concept of wealth. The silver was valued not just for its beauty, but also for its purity and the power of the empire it represented. These Roman coins were not used as money in Denmark in the same way they were used in Rome. Most people could not read the Latin inscriptions or understand the portraits of the emperors. Instead, the coins were valued purely for the silver they contained. They were often melted down to make jewelry, such as brooches, pendants, and rings. Sometimes, they were simply kept as exotic treasures, symbols of status and a connection to the powerful world to the south. Hoards of Roman denarii have been found buried in Danish soil, often far from any known Roman presence, showing just how far this silver traveled. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the flow of silver from the south dwindled. However, a new source soon emerged from the east. From the 8th century onwards, the Viking Age began, and Scandinavian traders and raiders traveled further than ever before. They established trade routes that went down the rivers of modern-day Russia and Ukraine. There, they connected with the powerful and wealthy Islamic caliphates. The Arabs had vast silver mines and produced beautiful silver coins called dirhams. These coins were of high quality and became the new dominant form of silver in the Viking world. Just like the Roman denarii before them, these Islamic dirhams poured into Scandinavia. Vikings traded furs, amber, and enslaved people for this precious silver. The journey of these coins was incredible. A dirham minted in Baghdad or Samarkand could end up buried in a field in Denmark. Again, the coins were valued for their weight and purity, not as currency. The Arabic script was even more mysterious to the Vikings than Latin had been. The sheer quantity of this silver, however, fundamentally changed the Danish economy. It created a level of wealth and a reliance on silver that would pave the way for Denmark's own coinage. The massive influx of Roman and, later, Islamic silver created a unique economic system in Viking Age Denmark. This is often called the hack silver or weight economy. Since the foreign coins were valued for their metal content and not their face value, their shape did not matter. To make payments, Vikings would simply cut up coins, jewelry, ingots, and any other silver objects they had. This process created small, irregular pieces of silver known as hack silver. A Viking's purse would not contain neat, round coins, but a jumble of chopped up silver fragments from all over the known world. To conduct a transaction, a merchant would use a small set of balance scales. These scales were a vital piece of equipment for anyone involved in trade and are often found in Viking graves. If you wanted to buy a cow, the seller would state a price in weight, for example, 100 grams of silver. You would then pull out your bag of hex silver and place pieces on the scale until it balanced at the correct weight. This could involve a mix of chopped up dirhams, bits of a silver bracelet, and fragments of an ingot. It was a very practical system that allowed for precise payments without needing standardized coins. The hack silver economy was incredibly flexible. It could absorb silver from any source. A piece of a Frankish sword pommel, a Byzantine plate, or an English brooch could all be chopped up and used as currency alongside coins from the Middle East. This is why Viking hoards are so fascinating. They are like a snapshot of the vast and interconnected world of the time. A single hoard can contain silver from dozens of different cultures, all mixed together. This system encouraged Vikings to raid and trade for silver in any form, as it could all be easily converted into spendable wealth back home. However, the hack silver system also had its drawbacks. It was cumbersome. Every single transaction required the use of scales and weights. There was also the constant risk of fraud. A dishonest trader might use inaccurate weights or try to pass off a piece of cheaper metal, like lead, coated in silver. As trade grew more complex and settlements like Hedeby became bustling market towns, the need for a more efficient and trustworthy system became clear. The constant weighing and cutting was slow. A standardized form of money, where each piece had a guaranteed weight and value, was the logical next step. The first true Danish coins were minted in the early 9th century, around the year 825 AD. This monumental step took place in the thriving Viking trading town of Hedeby. Located at the southern tip of the Jutland Peninsula, Hedeby was a crossroads of major trade routes, connecting Scandinavia with the Frankish Empire to the south and the Slavic lands to the east. It was a bustling, cosmopolitan hub filled with merchants, artisans, and travelers from many different lands. It was this intense commercial activity that created the perfect environment for the introduction of coinage. The hack silver economy was simply becoming too inefficient for the volume of trade happening in Hedeby. Identifying the exact ruler who ordered these first coins is difficult for historians. At this time, Denmark was not a fully unified kingdom under a single, powerful king. It was more of a patchwork of territories, ruled by different chieftains and petty kings. The most likely candidates for initiating this coinage are the kings who controlled Hedeby and its lucrative trade. Historical sources mention kings like Harald Klak or Horik I, who were powerful figures in southern Denmark during this period. They would have seen the coins used by their southern neighbors, the Carolingian francs, and understood the advantages of having a standardized currency. These first coins, known as Hedeby coins or sketas, were small and made of silver. The silver itself was likely sourced from the vast quantities of Islamic dirhams and Frankish deniers that were already circulating as hack silver. Mints would melt down these foreign coins and ingots to produce their new local currency. This was not about creating silver out of thin air, but rather about reshaping the existing silver supply into a more useful and controlled form. By issuing their own coins, the rulers of Hedeby could standardize payments, simplify trade, and also project their own authority and power. The minting process itself was a significant technological step. It required skilled metal workers who could create dies, the stamps used to impress the design onto the metal. They would take a small, measured blank of silver, place it between two dies, and strike the top one firmly with a hammer. This would imprint the designs on both sides of the coin at once. The production of these coins, even on a small scale, marked a major shift. It was the beginning of a move away from a simple weight-based economy towards a monetary system controlled and guaranteed by a ruling authority. The designs on the very first Hedeby coins were not complex portraits of kings. Instead, they were, heavily inspired by the coins of their powerful southern neighbors, the Carolingian francs. One of the most common early designs features a stylized ship on one side and an animal, perhaps a deer or a horse, on the other. The ship motif is particularly fitting for a town like Hedeby, whose prosperity was built on maritime trade. It represented the longships that were the lifeblood of the Viking economy, carrying goods and people across the North and Baltic seas. This design was a clear nod to the commercial nature of the town. Another significant design from this early period is the so-called cross and caravan coin. On one side, it features a simple cross. This is a fascinating detail, as it appeared long before Denmark officially converted to Christianity. It is likely an imitation of the crosses found on Carolingian and English coins. The cross was a powerful symbol, and its use may have been intended to make the coins more acceptable to Christian traders from the south. It shows how pragmatic the Vikings were, borrowing symbols that would facilitate trade and add an air of legitimacy to their new currency. The reverse side of this coin is even more intriguing. It shows a design that scholars interpret as a caravan, possibly depicting a house with a gabled roof, or even a stylized representation of the Ark of the Covenant, another motif borrowed from Frankish coins. Whatever the precise meaning, these early designs were abstract and symbolic. They were not about glorifying a specific ruler, but about creating a recognizable and trusted piece of currency for the marketplace. The symbols were chosen because they were familiar from other successful coinages, helping to ease the transition from hack silver to minted coins. The importance of these designs cannot be overstated. They tell a story of cultural exchange and economic ambition. The rulers of Hedeby were looking outwards, learning from the more established economies around them. By mimicking the styles of Carolingian coins, they were trying to create a currency that would be accepted internationally, at least within their trading sphere. These simple images of ships, animals, and crosses were Denmark's first attempt to create a visual language for money, a language that spoke of trade, power, and connection to the wider world. The next major chapter in the story of Danish coinage came in the latter half of the 10th century, under the rule of King Harald Bluetooth. Harald was a transformative figure in Danish history. He is famous for uniting the disparate tribes of Denmark and Norway and for officially bringing Christianity to his kingdom around 965 AD. As he consolidated his power and created a more centralized state, he also took control of the currency. The semi-independent minting that had begun in Hedeby was brought under direct royal authority. Coinage was no longer just a tool for merchants, it became an instrument of the king. Under Harald Bluetooth, the design of Danish coins changed dramatically. The old, abstract motifs inspired by Frankish sciatas were replaced. The most significant new design was the cross. Unlike the tentative crosses on the early Hedeby coins, the cross on Harald's coins was bold and central. It was a clear and unambiguous declaration of his new Christian faith and the new religious identity of his kingdom. By placing the cross on every coin, Harald was spreading this message to every corner of his realm and to every trading partner. The coins became a form of mass communication, proclaiming that Denmark was now a Christian kingdom. These coins, often called cross pennies or halvbrækstiten, were minted at key royal centers like Hedeby, but also likely at new mints in places like Jelling, the site of Harald's famous runestones. The coins were thin and struck on only one side, a technique that allowed for faster production. On the other side of the cross, the coins were often blank or showed a faint mirror image of the design. This was a practical choice, but the primary focus was the powerful Christian symbolism. The coins were a tangible symbol of the king's power, linking his authority directly with the authority of the Christian God. The move to a standardized royal and Christian coinage was a masterstroke of political branding. It aligned Denmark with the other Christian kingdoms of Europe, making it a more credible and stable partner in diplomacy and trade. It also reinforced the king's power within his own borders. Every time someone used a coin, they were holding a piece of silver stamped with the king's authority and his faith. This helped to unify the newly formed kingdom, creating a shared identity and a shared economic system under the firm control of the monarch. Harald Bluetooth's coins were not just money, they were propaganda. Following the reign of Harald Bluetooth, his son Svein Forkbeard and grandson Kenneth the Great continued to expand and refine the Danish monetary system. Knud, who ruled a vast North Sea empire that included Denmark, England, and Norway, played a particularly important role. He had seen the highly organized and efficient minting system in England and sought to replicate it in Denmark. This led to the establishment of a truly national and standardized currency based on the silver penny. This was a far cry from the early localized Hedeby coins or the one-sided cross pennies of Harald. Under Kenneth the Great, in the early 11th century, mints were established in major towns across Denmark, including Lund, Roskilde, and Odense. Each coin was now required to have the king's name and title on it, as well as the name of the moneyer who struck the coin and the town where it was minted. This was a brilliant system of quality control. If a coin was found to be underweight or made of impure silver, the king knew exactly which moneyer and which mint were responsible. This accountability ensured a high standard of quality, which in turn fostered public trust in the currency. The design of these pennies became more sophisticated. They featured portraits of the king, often in imitation of English and Byzantine styles. The king might be shown wearing a crown or a helmet, holding a scepter. These images projected royal power and authority. The reverse side typically featured a cross, continuing the Christian theme, but often in more elaborate forms. The inscriptions, written in Latin letters, were a clear statement of royal legitimacy. A coin reading Caenat Rex Danor Canute, king of the Danes, left no doubt about who was in charge of the kingdom and its economy. This standardized penny system had a profound impact. It fully replaced the old hack-silver economy. Trade became faster and more efficient, as coins no longer needed to be weighed for every transaction. Taxes and fines could be levied and paid in a uniform currency, which made royal administration much easier and more effective. The widespread circulation of these royal pennies helped to bind the kingdom together economically and politically. For the first time, people from all parts of Denmark were using the same money, issued by the same king. This created a powerful sense of national unity and a shared economic destiny. For several centuries following Canute the Great, the silver penny remained the backbone of the Danish economy. However, the medieval period was often turbulent. The quality and silver content of the coins could vary greatly depending on the power of the king and the state of the kingdom's finances. During times of weakness or civil war, the silver content was often reduced, and the coins became smaller and lighter. This debasement of the currency could lead to inflation and economic instability. Despite these fluctuations, new denominations began to appear, such as larger silver coins worth multiple pennies, to facilitate bigger transactions. The Renaissance brought significant changes to Danish coinage, reflecting the growing wealth and artistic ambitions of the era. In the late 15th and early 16th centuries, larger and more impressive silver coins were introduced, inspired by the German thaler. These coins were called the daler in Denmark. They were large enough to feature detailed, realistic portraits of the monarch, along with elaborate coats of arms and inscriptions. This was a world away from the simple, abstract coins of Hedeby. Coinage became a form of high art, used by kings like Christian IV to project an image of immense power, sophistication, and wealth across Europe. The monetary system continued to evolve over the centuries. In 1625, the krone was introduced as a unit of account, and the system became increasingly complex, with a mix of daler, mark, skilling, and other coins. A major reform took place in 1875, when Denmark, along with Sweden and Norway, formed the Scandinavian Monetary Union. This historic agreement established the modern krone and krona in Sweden as the new decimal-based currency, with 1 krone equal to 100 öre. The union linked the currencies of the three nations to a gold standard, creating a period of remarkable monetary stability that lasted until the First World War. Today, the Danish krone is a modern, stable currency, but its roots stretch back over 1200 years to those first small pieces of silver struck in Hedeby. The journey from a barter society to the use of hack silver, and then to the first locally minted coins, was a slow but revolutionary process. Each step, from the abstract symbols of the Hedeby Seatas to the Christian crosses of Harald Bluetooth and the royal portraits of Canute, reflects the political, economic, and cultural development of Denmark itself. The nation's history can be read in the changing faces of its coins. The story of Denmark's first silver coin is a journey through time, reflecting the nation's emergence as a kingdom. The first Danish coins were minted in the bustling Viking trade town of Hedeby. This important event took place around the year 825 AD. At the time, Denmark was not yet a unified kingdom, and the coins were likely issued by local rulers, such as King Harald Clark or King Horik I, who controlled this vital economic center. These pioneering coins marked a deliberate shift away from the cumbersome hack silver economy, where silver was valued only by weight, towards a more modern monetary system. The design of these first coins was not original, but was instead copied from the currency of the powerful Carolingian Empire to the south. The early motifs were simple and symbolic, featuring designs like a ship, an animal, or a cross. These images were not meant to glorify a specific king, but were chosen to be recognizable and trusted in the marketplace, facilitating trade with foreign merchants. The silver used to mint them came from melted down foreign coins, particularly Islamic dirhams and Frankish dinars, which had been flowing into Scandinavia for centuries through trade and raiding. The introduction of coinage in Hedeby was a pivotal moment. It represented a major step towards economic sophistication and state formation. While these first coins were regional and had limited circulation, they laid the essential groundwork for what was to come. They introduced the very concept of a standardized, locally produced currency, guaranteed by a ruling authority. This innovation was later adopted and expanded by powerful kings like Harald Bluetooth and Knut the Great, who used coinage as a tool to unify the kingdom, spread Christianity, and project their royal power. In summary, Denmark's first silver coin was a product of its time, an era of dynamic trade and emerging political power. It was minted in Hedeby around 825 AD by local Viking rulers. It was made from recycled foreign silver and featured designs copied from Frankish coins. Its primary importance was not just as a piece of money, but as the first step in a long process that would see Denmark develop its own national currency, an essential element in its journey to becoming a unified and organized kingdom. This small piece of silver is a direct ancestor of the modern Danish krone and a powerful symbol of the birth of the Danish economy.